Hi guys, Dominic Couch here, King Couch Yugioh. I'm here to show you guys what I believe is like the best non-engine for the Kewl Tune deck this format. This is a video that a lot of people asked me to make after Columbus, so I'm here to talk about it. Especially Fallen in the Virtuous was a big card everyone wanted me to talk about. So you'll notice there's a lot of non-engine here that I didn't really put in here. Anything that I thought was obvious that would be in the side deck, like cards like Heartbeat Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, or when we talk about the Bystials, I only really have Magnemite here because it's multi-purpose. I felt like I didn't want to include everything here. I wanted the video to be a little bit shorter. So the only non-engine ones I had here were the cards I think are high impact in the format and that the Kewl Tune deck may or may not play and that they may even play in the OCG. So the biggest one here that I did not play was Fallen in the Virtuous. I do think that how the current format is, that the Fallen in the Virtuous is excelling a lot going forward. I think that it's very good, and I think that there's a lot of cards in the extra deck that you no longer need to play. Like, I think that Crackle may actually be a cuttable extra deck card, as well as if you were to not play Harmonia, you have some extra spots. And while I do think Packbit is very good because it's the only card that lets Harmonia beat Q, Packbit does not have a lot of spots where it often comes up. So I believe that Fallen in the Virtuous is a card that you could play in place of playing multiple Ghost Ogres, or if you wanted to trim down on Harmonias, etc. I think I'll right here. I'll tell you the staple ones. I think your deck has to play this card. You have to play 3 Ash Blossom. You have to play Valor. You have to play Bell. Everything else, and then you have to play at least one Ghost Ogre to be able to summon it off Q to end on an additional interaction. But you do not need to play outside of these three. You don't have to play three of anything else. Harmonia, I think, is still good enough in the modern format right now with Doom Z and everything running around that I would still play three Phaedralis Harmonia. But I think going into next format, Phaedralis Harmonia kind of gets a little worse. I and it also there's some cool things you can do with it. Like if you were playing this, you could play Luluwith and Dogmatica Ecclesia to be able to get access to this card, which is strong in the mirror. But against a good player, they're going to be able to make Loudness War and kind of know what's going on. So I don't think it's that high impact. Also, a lot of the times in the formats where this card is good, this card is oftentimes going to be better because it can hit the spell and traps against the light and darkness deck. Next format is going to be able to hit Mind Shuffle as well. So I think these four are kind of your primary. You got to play these, and then you can play a mix of these. I think Harmonia is falling off slightly. The side frames I think are very very high impact. I think that this Gamma is obviously just a blowout when you draw it going second, but it can be a liability going first. It's not a great level to be able to synchro with, unlike Effect Veiler, for example, right? Like this is the best one to draw because most of your starters are level 3. Gamma only really synchros with your worst starter, which is Mix, and Mix is not a one card play by itself anyway, which is kind of bad. So you don't really want to draw this card going first. Same with Delta. But I will say that the upside of these cards is Delta being able to negate spells is a very unique thing. So I do like side decking these cards. Maybe they wouldn't find their way into my main deck going forward. Unless the format was very, very Kewl Tune dominant, because that's where I think Gamma excels, being able to destroy the body and negate the effect. I'm gonna swipe these cards off the screen as I talk about them, so I don't continue revisiting them. I think this card's pretty much unplayable. Like if you were gonna play another negation, even though it's not a tuner, impermanence is just better because it's a lot more diverse. So wouldn't play this. Imperm. Speaking of, I think this card is good, but I don't think it's great, and I don't like that you can't synchro with it. That was my biggest selling point. It's also my problem with Crown. I think both these cards are good, And Crown excels a lot if you were to draw this card like going first in the mirror. You're able to completely shut down a play and ignore a monster. But I think it's not very good versus anything else because the Cool Tune deck can't really kill through crowning something, as well as you can't remove the problem. And Imperm, I think, is good in the side deck, but I don't really enjoy it in the main deck. It just feels like another hand trap you're kind of throwing at Cool Tune monsters and doesn't feel very high impact versus anything else. DD Crow and Magnemite, I think, are side deck cards. They're good versus branded, can be good in other matchups. Like DD Crow is something playable you could put in your deck versus Sky Striker, some of the metas, the pure decks. I think these cards are good, but definitely side deck worthy, not main deck worthy. Perulia, same thing. There's no way this card would ever go in your main deck. Depending on how the format shapes up, you may be able to put it into your side deck. I think where we're at right now, the card is not good enough to put in your side deck because it's not good against enough decks, and you have to think about what card you'd be taking out to put that card in your deck. And there's just not your deck plays a lot of high quality cards. Like the matchup, these cards are good in most matchups, and you really wouldn't be taking out tuners to like play Perulia. You would want to side down on a little bit of engine, but there's not enough decks that Perulia is good against by itself that I could justify playing this card rather than just siding another card like Impermanence to, or even maybe a card like Nibiru, depending on how other decks shape up to, or Droll to pair. Like I'd rather just have a card I could pair. Boalos, I don't like this card in the main deck, like I said before, because it's not a tuner, and this deck can't really afford to have dead cards going first. However, this is one of the highest impact cards you could draw going second, mandatory side deck. Droll, I think, is not very good this format, but shaping up to be a lot better next format. So maybe post Chaos Origins, you could main deck this card. Right now, I do think it's a mandatory side deck card, though. Super Poly is is something I wanted to talk about with Fallen of the Virtuous. So, like I was saying before, if your deck were to not play Harmonia, you actually get a lot of extra X spaces. So this could result in you maybe visiting a card like Super Polymerization. The drawback with this card is you can't really use it going first because when you KTS, you're going to lock yourself into tuners. So the only thing you'll be able to Super Poly for would be Theseus. But it is a very good board breaker, and I think could for sure find its way into some of the decks that didn't play Harmonia. And then finally, the big talking point is going to be the Fallen and the Virtuous. I think this card is very good. It's a very good standalone interaction going first. It also is one of the best single non-engine cards you could draw playing into the Cool Tune board as Cool Tune. You pretty much force them to make Loudness War when they rotary and see this in your hand. And against the other decks, I think it kind of gives you a non-engine card that grinds a little bit better because I think the Cool Tune deck is very, very strong if you can get to the following turn and be able to Q summon back a Synchro from the grave. So I think Fallen of the Virtuous is very good. I think I would probably try it out right now. I really, really enjoy it in the mirror, but I do think it can be lackluster versus some of the other decks. Like I think drawing this card versus Sky Striker is a blank. Drawing it versus Branded is in the Cool Tune deck specifically feels not great. Uh, but there's certainly applications for this card in every matchup, and it is probably the best card you could draw standalone in the mirror, and it can help prevent ranking up in the Doomsday deck. Uh, but unfortunately, they if they got to play, they normally end on Regulus, and they'll normally have their trap card that acts as mistake for you. Which once they get that far, there's pretty much nothing you can really do anyway, which is why you kind of have to hand trap that deck or have multiple points of interaction for the rank up on your turn. So like Ghost Ogre, Harmonia, Fallen can contribute there because you can fall in the Regulus. So I think I would try out this card for now. I do think it is very good. And like I said before, I think you can free up some extra X space uh, by cutting cards like Crackle or trimming the Harmonia targets. So I do think this card is so good in the modern format that you should play it. But time will tell going into the next format if this card is still going to be as powerful as it is now. The last card I did want to talk about was the card we just got in Battles of Legend, Overtuning. I wanted to talk about how good I thought this card was. So, if you saw my deck, I played 3 Duelist Genesis for consistency as well as having access to Sync or Overtake going second. Duelist Genesis is once per turn, and while Duelist Genesis is very good going second because I played all tuner hand traps, going first is kind of bad unless you already draw a play. Because you pretty much have to get exactly sync or overtake, and then if they were to interact with sync or overtake, it's not great. And then if you draw it in multiples, you have dead cards. So I think what I would do is trim the third Duelist Genesis to play one of this. I think this card is pretty much the same as Duelist Genesis, but it diversifies the amount of cards you have in your deck that are once per turn and do similar things. So, for example, you could draw like this and Duelist Genesis and then be able to play both of them, or this and Synchro Overtake, or um, if you draw this and a tuner going first, it's obviously going to play. So I think that this card is nowhere near a three of. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't play it at all, but I do think it's better than the third copy of Duelist Genesis. Let me know if you guys have any questions about the Cool Tune deck in the comments or any of my takes here, and let me know if you guys like more content like this. Thank you, and goodbye.